This is a car that has had many names throughout its lifetime. It was originally introduced in 2012 as the Scion FRS for North America. It arrived alongside its near identical twin, the Subaru BRZ. Now for European markets, it was known as the GT86, and following the death of Scion as a brand, and this one being rebranded as a Toyota, it was just dubbed the Toyota 86. But now this is no regular 86. I'm here to show you this. This is the 2020 Toyota 86 Hakone Edition. Let's check it out. First things first, I think the tan and black contrasting seats, they look great. They look sporty, but the tan sort of gives the car a bit more of a luxury feel. The standard seats are black leather with black suede, and that's kind of the only option you really get. The good thing about this car is that sort of at this low price point is that there's not that many options to choose from. This dash is covered in suede and has sort of more of those tan accents. And I think it goes so well with the Hakone green exterior paint color. Everything sort of meshes pretty well. Up front, we do have a 2-liter boxer engine. It's dubbed the FA20, and it comes directly from Subaru. You will find this engine in the WRX, except it's turbocharged there. Here in this non-turbocharged application, it produces 205 horsepower, which you might think 205 horsepower. That's pretty good, and it kind of is. So I feel like the amount of horsepower is good. I just feel like the horsepower management and torque delivery is not that great. From, let's say, 4,000 to almost 6,000 RPM, not much happens. There's a bit of a torque dip, and that was one of the characteristics I didn't like about the original FRS and the BRZ that I had. They all had that torque dip. And while they did add that additional 5 horsepower with the sort of facelift model, they didn't get rid of the torque dip, which is what makes the car feel slow. This car does come equipped with the fantastic 6-speed manual transmission, and I'm not gonna be quick to rag on the automatic because I feel like the automatic in this car is actually not that bad, but the manual is kind of the way to go. This particular shifter action feels extremely tight. It feels very precise. You're not likely to miss-shift it. And it's also kind of one of its drawbacks. It's not really something that you're gonna shift really fast. For some reason, like, it takes a bit of effort to get it into each individual gear, which, while I think is nice, it does, I like the notchy feeling for when, you know, you're kind of like accelerating from a dead stop. I do feel that when you're driving, if you're really trying to squeeze all of this car can do, it's a bit more difficult to sort of like slam it into the gear itself because it's so notchy. If you really want to get the most out of this car, you have to basically floor it and redline it for every single gear, or else you're not going to get moving at the pace that you sort of expect from your 205 horsepower sports car. I actually do welcome that though, because there's some cars that I've been in, like for example, you look at a sort of any modern sort of big horsepower car, they have really long gears. And so, for example, you could be doing something like 80, 90 miles an hour in second gear. Think of like the Cayman GT4, the new GT4. You can hit almost 85 miles an hour in second gear and 112 miles an hour in third gear. That means basically if you decide to floor it from a stoplight, you're gonna be doing illegal speeds right before you even get out of second gear. Whereas in this car, you can kind of floor it and then change first, second, third, and not go to jail, which is kind of the fun thing about it. This steering rack feels very quick. The turn in and change of direction happens very quickly. It's very agile. Granted, this is a very light car. We're talking about 2,700 pounds, give or take. The steering wheel itself is good. The original BRZ FRS steering wheel didn't have any buttons on it, which was kind of a pain because you had to adjust everything on the sort of screen in the middle. Thankfully, this one has a few little buttons. That was added when they facelifted the car. We're in the perfect setting now in the highway to talk about one of the things that I'm not particularly in love with about this car, and that is the highway noise. And I always find it a little difficult to keep conversations at highway speed because there's so much road noise that comes in. And not only that, like the sort of stereo supplied with this car, which even though now includes Apple CarPlay, the speakers that it comes with are pretty weak. So if you try to listen to your music, you have to really blast it. All right, let's talk exterior because that's frankly one of my favorite things about this car. The paint on this car looks so nice. You'll notice that From certain angles it looks green, certain angles it looks black, but in all angles it has an incredible amount of sparkle. It really, really does shine, and I think it's the highlight of this car. Now, this being the Hakone Edition, we're talking you get the special paint, you get the bronze wheels, you get the tan seats, and I think it, all in all, as a package, it makes the 8.6 feel a lot more upscale than before. The Toyota 86 has been in production over the last 8 years under its sort of various guises, and while I really do appreciate the new aesthetic, the front facelift and new interior technology, this car leaves me a little conflicted, if I'm honest. The thing that I love the most about it is also the thing I dislike the most. See, this car feels largely the same to the 2012 FRS that first arrived so long ago and the Subaru BRZ that I personally owned. It's just as loud, it's just as uncomfortable, and it's just as sort of slow. But on the other hand, it still feels quite as dynamic, the steering is still great, it's just as lightweight, and it's just pure fun. So this car is definitely not trying to be all things to all people. If you want a lightweight manual sports car at the cheap end of the market, you're kind of torn between this or the MX-5 Miata. And yes, I know that this car is going to get refreshed in the next couple of years or so. I just hope that whatever new tech, whatever new engine, or whatever new redesign comes with it doesn't lose any of its original magic, because that's what made it great in the first place.